Hello again. So I'm here with Tashi today. Hope it's not too much of a distraction. And I'm going to be talking about the second noble truth. So yesterday I talked about the first noble truth, the truth of unsatisfactoriness or suffering, dukkha. So today I'm going to say something about the cause of suffering, which, well, in a way, perhaps there's no surprises. Perhaps we're very familiar with all the causes of suffering. So the suffering that I'm interested in talking about today is not that suffering that we can't do anything about, that we can't, that we can't overcome, you might say, because we are human beings or we're living beings, and as living beings, we know that there are certain aspects of being alive that we can't do anything about. From the moment we're born, we are going to die. From the moment we've got a human body, we are going to get old if we're lucky enough to get old. And at times we'll get ill. And none of that can we do anything about. Although we do live almost pretending that we can do something about those things, which, if you think about it, is very bizarre. The energy and the time and the money that goes into people fighting those truths, you could say. So, for example, I think a lot of the emphasis today on gyms and health and running and so on. I'm not saying that none of that is healthy, but actually it can become quite habitual. It can have a neurotic element to it. And a little while ago I saw a little bit of a program, and I think it was on body image. Anyway, there were these young lads at going to gyms, and they were still teenagers, and they were absolutely in despair almost about about how their six pack was, and comparing what muscles they had to other people, and it was just very sad to see them so preoccupied with how they appeared, and whether they were going to be approved of that way. Basically, I just found that a very sad situation. But also, there is a lot of false advertising about keeping young, about looking young, about how to take 10 years off your life and things like that. And in a way, it's a denial of the march of age and the march of life. And also it distracts us from what is much more important. It distracts us from the meaning of life and puts the emphasis on our material body, as if that has got some supreme value. Rather than our mind. It always fascinates me that that there is such emphasis, like on the news. At the end of the news, they always have a great big chunk that's about sport and, about that physical activity of sport. And that fascinates me because there's no emphasis in the public domain, really, on the mind or on developing the mind or on having a calmer, more satisfied mind. And that is far more important than what happens with us physically. I'm not saying the physical isn't important, but our happiness and our unhappiness is mind made. So there's all these forms of suffering that we can't do anything about, but there are a lot of aspects of our suffering that we can do something about, that are not inevitable. So what are they? Well, they are our attitudes and our views and our relationship with other people. Yes, there are so many teachings around the cause of suffering. And one of those, as we know, is the 8 worldly winds. I mean, in a way, you could think of a lot of other numbers of worldly winds. But anyway, we know the 8 worldly winds, which are pleasure and pain, gain and loss, fame and obscurity, and praise and blame. So we ricochet between these. We want pleasure and we don't want pain. We don't want to be blamed, and we do want to be praised. We want to be liked, not disliked. And a lot of our energy, you could say, is wasted on trying to dwell in pleasure, in being approved of, and so on. Yes, I think the fame and obscurity is a very interesting one. I mean, sometimes it's put down as fame and infamy, but certainly Dilgo Khyentse always refers to it as fame and obscurity. And that makes more sense to me because we basically want our little bit of fame. We want to have mattered. We don't want to disappear into oblivion, as it were. We're really frightened of that. And so because of that, we put a great deal of our energy into blogs, or I'm afraid I'm not up on all the internet social stuff, but I've only just about got into putting this on YouTube. But an awful lot of energy goes on into trying to kind of have your moment of fame, or trying to be well known. And in a way that's terribly sad, because I can't help thinking of the future and thinking, how are those people going to cope with getting old and with dying, when they are so hanging on to producing this image of themselves. And of course we've all got images, I don't particularly like getting old, and I wonder at times how I ever changed into this old lady that I am now. But I also accept that as well. It's like I often say that Buddhism is a great preparation for death, because we all need to be well prepared by the time we get there. So, coming back to why is it that we suffer? And it's basically, I mean, if we just look at craving at its base, you can see that actually we're always wanting things or not wanting things. Being satisfied is not an easy thing. And it's particularly not easy for us at the moment to be satisfied, because we're not able to live the life that we particularly want to be living at the moment. For a lot of us, maybe we don't want to be stuck indoors. Maybe there are things we want to do and people we want to see. A lot of people have said to me recently that they miss hugging. Well, you can do virtual hugging by doing the Metta Bhavana. Actually, I tried that this morning and it was really good. Yeah, I had a Metta Bhavana. So most of you know that's the meditation practice of loving kindness. And I imagined hugging people. And it really was quite effective, because it brings you in very close proximity with those people imaginatively. And so if you have been missing hugging, maybe you could try that. So, yes, it's so simple, isn't it? It's so simple to think, if I could just be more content with what I've got, that would all be fine. But why is that so hard? Why is it so hard to be content? And I think it's because we don't quite believe that we can't get it right somehow, that we can't organise our lives so that it will be easier. It will be, we'll have everything in place, as it were, for a happy state. And it's a great relief to know that isn't possible. It just isn't possible. because, you know, however much money you've got, you'll always want more. Yes, you cannot help, you can't control your own life, let alone anybody else's. You certainly can't control other people's lives. And I think that's an interesting one to look at in relationships because, you know, as long as you think you're going to change someone, really the relationship is doomed because you're always going to be at odds and that will come out in some way. Um, and so you have to let people be who they are. And well, it certainly helps if you're both on a path of growth, as it were, that you both are committed to some kind of spiritual awareness. But whether you are or whether you're not, you know, you can't control other people. Yes, there's a verse that says, if you cannot accomplish your own good, it is laughable to think of accomplishing the good of others. Yeah, which is so true, isn't it? Which is so true. Anyway, that's a ramble for today around the causes of suffering. Really, what we have to do is let go and be with how things are. Doesn't mean we never make decisions or never change things, but you know, what can't be changed, just let go of. And if you're healthy and well at the moment, really live that, really be in that, you know, without having to resent what you're not able to do, what can't happen at the moment. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Tashi, do you want to say goodbye? Or do you want to say Tashi boy? Oh, that's his goodbye. Okay.